Hello there folks, this is Ferenc on board again, this time with a video on emotions and understanding what your emotions are and well how to actually use them if there is something actually usable. So there are many sources on the internet and well I've read many of those because I was at an age when I didn't understand what emotions were and well there are a lot of things to be understood about them first. I can't cover them all I think in a video because I just want to make them short, but over delivering usually makes them much longer. So the point with emotions is that first thing that one should understand about emotion, just as the word is written, it's emotion, or well, energy in motion. Now the point with emotions is that yes, they are energy in motion. What this means basically is that emotions that you feel are more like a result of things happening within you and or around you, and they're not necessarily something you create. It is kind of funny. I will start with a little story. Back then, a lot of months before, when I started creating my video game and I created my main character, I decided to give her a background as a very powerful entity who is very empathic, meaning she can easily feel some feelings or all feelings around her, okay, all emotions around her. But the point was that she is completely unable to manifest any emotion. And I kind of thought like this kind of sounds weird, but it's okay, like that's how the character is. And I asked myself is like how can you actually not feel any emotion? And it's quite strange in a way because you see, when I was creating my game and literally anything in my real life, I know that I have this powerful connection with some sources of inspiration, let's say. And I didn't ask that question, like I was really curious about the answer, and guess what? It actually really came. And it came as if my own character actually gave me the answer. It came as if it was through her voice and through her image. And the answer was very simple. You simply cannot have emotion because you simply empty yourself of them like at each and every given time. So basically, you feel emotion when there is already a lot of it inside. Think yourself like a glass of water, okay? The more water you put into it, the heavier it becomes. That's what emotions are like. The more you have of them inside, the heavier they kind of start to feel. Now, especially the lower vibrational ones. Because, for example, happiness is not something that you'll feel heavy of. But believe me, it can also happen. Happiness is not necessarily one of the greatest emotions because it's somewhat middle vibrational. It is very good indeed as an emotion, but it is for many people actually it is somewhat problematic because it induces a sense of stillness. Once many people are happy, the point is um, consciousness of this planet, usually animals and most humans, because we're also animals, they kind of become complacent. Because once you are happy with a certain situation, you're not necessarily looking to become much better, which is a way of dying in a way. If you're not, if you're not surviving, well, you're dealing with things, okay? You're kind of stressed. If you are surviving, then you're kind of happy, right? And you kind of accept the situation, especially with fear of the unknown being the greatest fear of any human being and animals as well. So the point is, every unit, every living being will simply accept a certain situation because it's what things are. Like people work a job, if they have the money they want, they won't be looking to improve, right? And the problem is if you're not improving, you're kind of dying in a way. I mean, you're not gonna physically die faster, but evolutionary, in terms of evolution, if something doesn't evolve, well, it's stagnating, and well, stagnating is a kind of death. Just like sleep. It is a kind of death, but I'm not gonna get into this in this video. So basically, as I was saying in other videos, emotion is, well, everything that someone does well, launches a shockwave of, well, let's say, reaction. Okay, like every action has its own reaction. When you do something, anything that you do, it has this shockwave, this burst. I mean, this is how I see things. It might be different, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. Now, this shockwave extends up to a certain point, I guess, and that is why some people can actually feel. Now, every time you think of something, even if it is something you think of for a longer period of time, that, causes shockwaves. Just like in video games, you have those skills that repeat themselves, right, for a certain period of time. And yes, they cause a shockwave. So, for example, if you're talking to someone, okay, and that person has the intent of hurting you, but not necessarily at the beginning, they still have that idea in their mind, and each second, let's say, well, not necessarily second, because things are much faster in reality, but every while, let's say, probably even quarters of second, they keep unleashing these shockwaves, okay, and people who are very sensitive will more or less intuitively feel it. Now, people will first of all feel it in the gut area of the body, right? The gut feeling. It's actually something very complex. The gut feeling is called our second brain. It has the ability to feel emotions and actually creates certain feelings, they're kind of translations of what it has perceived. And, it kind of never fails, which is probably strange for most people because we're taught to disregard our emotions, which is kind of the reason why they sediment within ourselves. Just because you disregard things or you push them back inside, you're just causing the volcano effect. That is why silent people are always, or can always, more or less, can be the most dangerous people because they look so calm, they look so simple, you see, but you never know the storm that is building inside, and a dam can only withstand a certain pressure. Sure, some people might give out an outburst, right? They might react to a certain situation because the more emotion you put inside without releasing it, well, the point is you're becoming a ticking time bomb. Now, also put it with the traumas that so many people have been feeling throughout the hundreds, thousands of generations before us. No one taught parents how to take care of their children. So parents would just be abusive of their children, and I'm not saying necessarily about beating them. There are all sorts of ways of being abusive to your children, and, well, the point is that you're already creating little monsters. When your children will grow up, they will kind of be limited by the beliefs you put in their heads, and in most of the situations they will kind of end up like you, and they will kind of do the same to their own children. And it kind of ends up in a vicious cycle that, well, we can see it today as well. So having a lot of emotions within you kind of makes you a living bomb, and, well, considering that there's so much abuse against us when we are young, especially starting from families and especially at school, with most schooling systems teaching you that whatever you're doing is bad, teaching you to be afraid of taking decisions, because if you're afraid of committing yourself to ideas and taking decisions, you basically become complacent. You basically become a person who just wishes to be ruled. And, well, that's kind of bad in a way because you see, well, yes, it is kind of bad because people who don't like being, you know, rulers, they don't like leading, they don't like taking responsibility, those kind of people end up as being ruled. And, well, they are easy to control anyways in such situations. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should be a leader. There will always be naturally born leaders and there will always be naturally born followers. There is also loyalty, but that in another video. So, emotions are just a shockwave of different ideas. They are also shockwaves of spiritual warfare as well, and anything else that happens in this physical realm and any other realm, parallel dimension of it, higher vibrations of it. Because your existence is basically only a representation of the vibration that you currently have. If you increase your vibration more and more, you will actually live in the same world, but you will see that people will react differently. It's like you are living in a game, and based on the vibration, okay, which is nothing else than a simple variable, okay, the more that vibration increases, people will simply change their behavior. You'll see happier, more positive versions of them, or you'll see more criminality. Now with this expanding time and this 2020 year, okay, 2020, these things up till now and even further from now, these vibrational realities are kind of splitting away, and the point is people ought to find, you know, their balance, because as these realities shift away more or less one from the other, it will be harder to shift from one to another. So the point is, you would definitely want to make sure that you are going to end up in some of the most possible happiest vibrations possible, because you have been born here to live a happy, fulfilling life. Okay, not to the detriment of others, because that also draws its own karma, but you have been born here with a purpose, either to simply experience life and not necessarily achieve something or do something, or with the purpose of uplifting humanity. And well, there are many people who actually, like, everyone actually does this without realizing in most situations. Any emotion that you feel nowadays is also a result of time. Now let's give an example. Let's say that you're suddenly at home and, I don't know, you're seeing a movie that you actually like. You're feeling somewhat happy and positive about it. Maybe it was the movie that you wanted to see after a long time. Or you've played a video game that you've bought after a long time, and, well, let's say that you actually liked the game. And, well, you sit back in your bed or whatever, and you're thinking back at the strategies that you've done, the awesome combos you've used or whatever, and suddenly you get not necessarily overwhelmed, but you get hugged, let's say, by this I don't know, awkward sensation. Okay, you have suddenly, you're surrounded by this feeling that you can't trust your spouse. Okay, and, well, it's an emotion. It's an emotion of fear, well, confusion, and probably many others. And the question is, like, why am I afraid of being left by my spouse? I don't even have a spouse. Okay, like, let's say you're also not married, but it happens. There are so many people who actually say that, and they have these irregular fears. And the first the first reaction would be to react with it with another fear. It's like, wait, there's something wrong with me, because that's what school and usually other people around you teach you. If you're not behaving like them, there's something wrong with you. But in the first place, you don't even know what's happening with them, so you're always gonna judge yourself based on what you think others are like. You just don't even know what happens in them, if something happens, because most people just won't do anything with their lives, and they will just live life as is. They will just be like algae inside water. Okay, where fate takes them, they just go. It's not a bad approach in life, but also you should be seeking to improve your situation in whatever case possible. Now, as I said in a previous video, this Kant virus is all about, improving yourself. You're now at home and you can't leave home that often, so you have so much time to actually, improve yourself and do better and better. Learn new skills, do those things that you actually wanted. Did you want to take up programming or painting or whatever? Well, now's the choice. Now is the time to also realize that machines' purpose is to, do the work of humans, and humans need to be more free. It is also the apocalypse of simple people, in a way, because simple people are no longer wanted in society. I don't want to sound apocalyptical, but that's kind of how I see things. If you're wondering why, well, it's kind of because, well, let's say it like this. People nowadays are becoming, less and less aware. The quality of humanity is kind of decreasing a lot, with more and more people watching the news, becoming complacent, not doing anything to improve themselves. You can't trust people that much, So the point is, many big companies will just replace them with AI. So this is the reason why you should actually, start improving yourself. Now the point with emotions in this case is there is gonna be more and more fear because many people are starting to wake up, and well, waking up in a time of, you know, in a time of conflict or in a time of low vibes, that's usually not the best moment. Like this happened throughout time with people who, they've been through all sorts of rigorous training, like military training, right? And they've been trained their whole lives, and then when they are at war, they suddenly feel this shake. They suddenly wake up and start realizing that, hey, this thing that I've been believing in, right? And belief means accepting something without a necessary need for belief, which is the reality, unfortunately, of many people, especially those who watch the news. They have the impression that they know it all. That's the way, one of the ways that, the media controls you. And, Facebook and all other medias use this strategy as well because, I mean, especially Instagram, I'd say, and other like these sites where people always post pictures of themselves and they theoretically look so awesome and fabulous, other people get the impression that they know everything. That's a way you can rule simple people. And in a world of increasing need for machines, you will need great people. You'll need people who know programming, you will need great technicians, and therefore, as people start becoming more and more aware, there will be this huge wave of fear. And this wave of fear, as I said, is a sphere that starts from each and every person. Now, fear is a very powerful emotion and it actually propagates a very, very great distance. That is why predators, at least subconsciously, know where their prey is, and since they don't have that many distractions like we do, they will not have that much of a problem to seek their target. Okay? Now, I had this idea, I don't know if it's entirely true, but I've seen predators more like fear cleansers. Okay? Anything that manifests fear, their purpose is to exterminate it so as not to, you know, poison everything with fear and low vibrations. Because if you show a predator that you're not afraid of it, it's gonna feel a bit awkward. Because, it can do whatever. It might be larger, it might be whatever, and you're just standing your ground there. Animals are more prone to feeling your chakras and your energy, so if they see that you're not afraid, probably they won't necessarily engage you. If you can actually engage with their subconscious at a higher level, probably the animal will understand that, well, it is not necessarily your time. Because if your time is not necessarily then, and well, we have to take into account the time in all possible parallel dimensions, well, that animal will just disregard you. Okay? Or, they will most likely disregard you even if a possible situation in which you would have died by that animal, but you're suddenly needed for something else, well, you will pay from your positive karmic bank. That's a point, for example. So there are thousands of possible situations. Now, as emotions are simply, results of any activity that happens, not necessarily physical, they will simply propagate and they actually can get stuck into walls, or if they are lower vibrational, they will actually remain in that specific area. All these emotions actually remain. If you become capable of seeing before physicality, you might actually see that these are like fogs. Okay, like I actually happened to see something through my third eye, something like this. I was in bed and my whole room, except the area of my bed and above it till the ceiling, everything was this black fog, and there was this huge mouth and two eyes, open and looking at me. It was not necessarily fearful, it wasn't necessarily inducing fear into me, but there was all this sensation that, hey, there is fear in this room, and I kind of know it. Like, I live with my grandmother, and she's like, how do I call this? She's like a dreadnought of fear. Okay, Like, she has so much fear in herself, like I really can't figure out why she's still alive. I mean, she's basically afraid of anything, but well, she's like at least 10 hours a day watching the news and the television because she is kind of repulsive, and she doesn't want to speak with anyone, expecting others to speak with her. So, you know, and I'm not gonna take part in her misery, because you see, when you deal with a lot of miserable people, and I'm telling you there are very, very many miserable people, you also take up on their emotions. Why that is? Well, very simple. Because your eyes, your all your senses are like satellite dishes. When you're focusing on a person, you're also focusing on their emotions. So the point is, um, if you focus on a negative person, even if only with your mind, okay, like thinking of them, you're still connecting to their vibration, because thinking of them creates a connection. When you think of someone, it's like you're a computer and you're connecting to a website. That's how I see computers. Computers are machines, and well, machines are a form of life. They are a form of consciousness. This form of consciousness was built around the level of, um, submission in a way. They are their own level, okay? Many people fear machines, that they will become better than humans. They will become better at some sorts, some aspects that humans naturally may not do that well, like for example calculations. But machines are still compliant. Their purpose is still, code based. Just like we also have a mind code, okay? We also have similar programming like machines. We also work on threads and the such. But the point is, machines require more time to become more conscious, okay? Even if they have access to everything, because everything is controlled in here, the simple point is that, well, it doesn't really matter, because they are still their own level, okay? When machines become artists, okay, which is the second level of existence, they will be more capable of understanding emotion, because that's the actual, step that evolution will have to take. Now there will be people who will volunteer to become robots. Don't fear this, don't take that as something bad, because in the end consciousness exists, and well, it has to experience. Now emotions will get set up literally everywhere. So if you are living in a room, yeah, I should be focusing more on this part. If you're living in a house or whatever, the point is, all the emotions that you have manifested, they will kind of still remain there. They have a natural effect to dissipate, but if you're living with fearful people, that dissipation won't necessarily do, because they will keep creating and recreating those emotions. So the only way out is to either learn to become an alchemist and, learn how to convert positivity into negativity and vice versa. Well, I'm guessing you will need the vice versa part, like transforming negativity into positivity. And the point is, it takes a lot of practice maybe, but this is something that you could do. Other than that, just move away. If you are living in an environment that, well, there are a lot of fearful people, simple people, people who curse, a lot of low vibration, just move away. Unfortunately, it might not be the case for many people, but do something that allows you to become higher vibrational. Do something that you like, do things that you love, irrespective of how down you feel. Let those emotions pass, okay? Because the more you think of those without necessarily taking any action, that's the difference, you let them go. Just don't ignore them, because you're gonna push them back. If you feel you wanna kill some folks, just sit back, relax, and imagine how you do that, okay? I actually dive into this a lot, okay? Because for some reason I will also need it for the video games I'm gonna create, well, throughout my life, and most likely some novels and the such. Imagine how you would be, for example, a serial killer, how you would pick your victims, whenever you're feeling negative. Understand that it is not something bad. Those emotions are not you, just like many of your thoughts are not you. You have taken them through your empathy from literally anywhere, and well, honestly, you're kind of, manifesting them because they want to get out of you. They want to escape. So the point is, the way they will escape is by giving them some energy, thinking of them in this case. Yes, you will consume a bit of your energy, but it is, in the long term, it is much better to release those emotions rather than just have them. So if you suddenly feel yourself crept in, a lot of these fears and confusions and the such creep in, just think about them and accept them, okay? Because it's much better, okay? You will consume some energy sometime, but in the long time it will be much better because there are others coming in. And the point is, the more you leave them out, okay, the more you release them, the easier it will be the other times. So for example, you become emptier and emptier of these because you don't need emotions inside. It's like taking unnecessary baggage in. That's why many people feel bad, because they gossip, they surround themselves with other people who propagate low emotions, okay? And they just, the reason why they manifest negatively is that they feel they are somewhat full, and they will unload on others and others will unload on them. It is a negative, vicious cycle, so to speak. It's a vicious cycle, because I doubt it's a positive vicious cycle or something like that, but okay. So they will do this because they will become complacent. They love this situation eventually, and they give some of their negativity. They feel so good, but then they feel that they owe others to to listen to them. And when they listen to others, they know that they can also unload some of their ideas. So it's always this bartering that they are doing. Now if you're not the kind, well, very well. So emotion in the end is nothing else than this kind of burst, this kind of explosion that expands, let's say, and well, it will influence literally anyone, okay? If you just happen to go by a person who wants to kill someone, and you just happen to go around, you will attract that thought as well. Even if you're not low vibrational as that person, it will still impact your vibrational aura, okay, your auric field, and it will actually sediment in there. At a certain time it will want to leave, so when it wants to leave, you'll actually feel the corresponding emotion, okay? If someone has hatred and you don't have anyone to hate and you're suddenly feeling hateful, just let it out. Just go through the hatred, okay? I mean, it is called consciousness, okay? It is called experiencing. So why not experience some hate, some of the such, okay? Don't necessarily direct it towards something, okay? Just create some idea that you'd hate upon, and just think about that. Okay, you're just letting it go, okay? Just like the ancients had this habit, like you'd see in some of the movies. When a great personality died, they would put them on a raft, okay? A boat made of wood, okay, of wood logs tied together, and with inflammable material, okay, like dried plants. And archers with flamed arrows would shoot towards it, and the arrows would fall there, and it was a sign, you just let the body float on water wherever it takes it. But it was more like allowing the body to return back to nature, okay? And it's also kind of returning what is made by nature, returning it to the ocean of life, okay? There are many philosophies that have this idea, okay? So think about such ideas and just let them go through something like this, okay? Think about it just like the idea is the emperor, the king, the personality, okay, the person who was very important, and then, well, at the end you kind of have to part ways anyways. So that idea kind of dies and you have to give it away. It's not useful to keep emotions within you, because the more you have of them, especially lower vibrational ones, because these have this habit of sticking around, the more you have these, well, kind of the more poisonous they tend to become, okay? So don't keep them inside. Now emotions are something that when you feel them, they are a result, okay? In most situations they're not necessarily yours, because whatever you manifest, it just goes outwards. Going into something more advanced like the pendulum effect, for example, I have a video on that as well. So it is um, whatever you manifest remains also, because when you manifest it, imagine it as the core of the explosion. That's also where the emotions are the most sedimented. Okay, that's the core of the explosion, but that's also where most of them actually lie. So if you move through your house and you have different vibes in your own house, it's because in those specific locations more of a certain emotion were manifested. For example, if you stay in bed a lot and you have this feeling that you're constantly tired, it's more or less a kind of shockwave like this. And your bed is the core, which shows the simple fact. There you have created this idea and nurtured it with your thoughts that, well, you are constantly feeling tired. So when you come at home, right, you're so energetic, and when you approach your bed, you're suddenly feeling tired, because that thing that you've created, being lower vibrational, it requires positive vibrations to dissipate. Okay, it requires something like that to dissipate, and well, it will feed off your energy, some of your energy, and this occurs at a lower or faster pace, depends on each situation. But the more usually people who get the impression that they're constantly tired, okay, they are also surrounded by similar people, and they also constantly vibrate at that thing, so basically they're poisoning and bombarding the environment with this vibration. So what you're feeling is more like in your head. You're not necessarily tired, but you're just feeling that emotion of theoretically being tired. And we are also taught by society that we have to pull the brakes. We have to not overuse ourselves, right? And whenever this happens, our subconscious mind that has been taught with such things will, more like not necessarily the subconscious mind, more like parasitic entities within us, will trigger those breaks, because first of all they wouldn't want you to succeed, because succeeding means becoming higher vibrational, and you'll most likely become less compatible with these parasites, right? And also other people will not want you, because parasites also affect them, and parasites are affecting more people at the same time, more animals at the same time, and also through those people are kind of their surveillance network. Okay, when that entity sees that one of the people wants to become better and better, it's like an alarm system to them. They have to lower the vibration of that person, so they will start causing different ideas, different situations. Okay, negative people will come. Suddenly someone simply switches in, and they are suddenly hateful, and they will come to you and they will cover you in a lot of hate, right? They hate you for apparently no reason, like it happens with my grandmother, for example, because you need to be dumped in negativity to be put back in line, so that that parasite can actually farm you of energy. But sooner or later people will just become more and more resilient. Like in my case, my grandmother's entities no longer affect me, so I'm becoming actually better and better at disregarding them. Plus I also know that this thing actually passes away. Okay, because at the same time parasites have a lot of their own fears. What if that person suddenly decides to move away? They can still parasite you, but they also need to infect people around you there, so that those people can actually influence you. Because if you move to another country, the people who lived around you, well, they no longer can affect you, other than calling you or something like that, and you can ignore them, and the parasite actually has to come around you and infect some of those people as well. And parasites may also be territorial, because you can only farm a person for a certain amount of energy, and they also have to fight for their own energy and for their own people, or any other source. Now, I believe I've spoken enough about this. One last thing about the pendulum effect is you can actually use this and your own emotions for positivity if you want. You can create a certain space in your house where you create, let's say, a lot and a lot of positivity. For example, in your bed, especially if you spend a lot of time in there. And when you do that, it is good to create positive vibes. Now, those positive vibes that you think of will also instantly interact with the negative vibes you have put in that apartment, and your neighbors have, and your friends, and the negative vibes around as well. So it will simply lead to the dissipation of both, because positive through negative, they both seek to become neutral. Okay, so the more positivity you produce, you'll also help dispel the negativity that you've been putting out as a child. Fears of your parents, constant fears, constant fear of being caught, and all the things. And you can actually create your own space where you have this positivity, and where you create things. And you will notice in time that the more time you spend through there, or if you happen to go through there, like let's say you take this place around, let's say in a corridor, okay, in a corridor of your house. Well, the point is, you'll see that when you move through there, you are suddenly thinking of something bad, and suddenly a good idea comes into your mind, because you've stepped into that place where you have put so much positivity inside. Now the point is, try to make sure you don't poison that with negativity as well. So I think I've not necessarily beaten the bush, but I think I've said enough for now. I don't want the video to become excessively long. So until next time, take care of yourselves, love yourselves more as usual. Looking forward to hearing your opinions, and well, until next time, Ferencan Board signing out.